starting our next panel. We're keeping it rolling. This is another great panel with some super high powerful, high profile individuals leading the industry in the technology stack. Ladies and gentlemen, I really think this is the actual sauce of the benefits of this exciting financial revolution, because we're constantly talking about the efficiencies, the benefits, the cost reductions that come from working with technology for capital markets. Well, what better panel than to talk to the technologists themselves that are making this happen and to discuss the real exciting benefits and revolution behind the technology. So my name is Kyle Sonlin. I'm here with Security Token Market, and we have a great panel here talking about transforming your back office. And so before we dive into it, we of course need to introduce our amazing panelists. I want to kick it off with my good friend, Dave Hendricks. Dave, could you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about Vertalo for anybody that may not know the company, despite the fact that you're an OG in this industry?
Hey, thanks for having me on here. Great to meet everybody. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Super exciting. I am Dave Hendricks. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Vertalo. We were founded in 2017. Initially, we are an issuer. And then in May of 2018, after seeing some holes in the market, we pivoted to become a digital asset data management platform, focusing on transfer agency and data management really of the investor and asset data, which is thrown off, which is produced from the work that we do. We started out in the mid and back office. And after that, seeing the opportunity to help on capital formation, we started doing that in 2019. But I'm super excited to talk about the real benefits that can accrue from the proper implementation of digital asset technology, specifically distributed ledger technology in institutions. Thanks for this.
Exciting. Yeah, I have a ton of follow-ups that I want to get to, particularly even just defining some of the jargon and terminology here. But I'm going to put a pin on that just to make sure that we can introduce the rest of our panel. I'm going to go over to Marson. Marson, could you give us a little bit of background on yourself and your business?
Absolutely. So Inveniam's been around since 2017. We focus on the data layer for organizations. So our technology plays a role of a cross-enterprise service bus, where we touch data and information across different enterprises and different systems, being the bridge that connects the data without actually moving the data. So that way we're always data compliant. Now myself, I'm a reformed investment banker. I used to run funds, now I run data. I think I've moved on to the smarter part of the market, the smarter side of the market. Data whereas you actually have everything happening. So and it's about time. Most of my life I spent in alternatives. So a rather opaque market with a lot of data, but not very transparency.
Wonderful. We anybody that has been in this industry also is very familiar with Inveniam and the services that the company provides. So we're excited to have you on here. Kicking it over to Lou. Lou, please talk a little bit about Block Time Financial and what you got going on.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. My name's Lou Morgan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Block Time Financial. We also started in 2017. 2019 started developing our platform. We're a middle and back office software solution, blockchain infrastructure. Okay, we do the not so fun, cool, sexy stuff.
But the stuff that matters, Lou, it's the stuff that actually matters.
You're sexy, Lou. Don't let anyone tell you you're not sexy, Lou. Come on.
But yeah, we we're doing we're cranking out the statements, we're creating the transactions, we're doing tokenization, we're doing all that kind of stuff, traditional back office stuff that blockchain really needs to get into the future. I spent 30 years in the in the TradeFi industry as a member of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, as a partner at a broker dealer. So very well versed in CFTC and SEC regs. We try and make our platform real easy to work with for the regulators to get the data that they're probably going to need. So that's us in a nutshell.
Awesome. Awesome. Shout out to Block Time Financial for being a sponsor of the Tokenize This conference here. Really appreciate you guys showing up and showing out and helping us make this thing possible. Finally, certainly not least, but last here for the introductions, we've got Siddartha from Intain. Please, Sid, talk a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Hey, thanks, Kyle. Good to be here with all of you. This is the first blockchain conference panel where I guess having been founded in 2018, we are the youngest company. Otherwise, this seems very old. Intain is focused on structured finance. And our idea for people who have seen the Big Short movie really is that you see so many types of entities in the structured finance industry. The issuer, custodian, underwriter, servicer, trustee, investor, bringing them onto a common network. We have about $6 billion across 30 deals that are administered on our platform. And we use blockchain as a network, but we combine a suite of digital technologies. In fact, the origin of the Intain name itself comes from intelligent blockchain. So we've been combining components of AI. I'm happy to talk as we go along.
Awesome. Awesome. So we've got about 35 minutes. We're going to end here right at 12:30. And we've been really sharp on schedule throughout the event, and we're going to try to keep that up today. So I want to be as efficient as we can with our time. So first off, we have the fact that our panel is talking about back office stuff. Dave, you did mention back office in terms of your expertise in the software that Vertalo provides. Could you just kind of walk us through what that means and why there's opportunity in the back office part of the capital markets?
Yeah, I think that while the front office work is sexy and public, there's an engine room that needs to be connected to that front of house experience. It's the cooks, it's the ingredients, it's the storage. So much of what happens in even in TradFi is really behind the scenes. Okay, there's a lot of work being done in huge floors of people who are moving spreadsheets around, who are reconciling, who are emailing and faxing. They're doing all kinds of things. That's the interim. That's the heart of TradFi. In this new kind of DeFi world that we all participate in, there's been a lot of emphasis on things like capital formation or secondary trading. Those are both kind of front of the house operations. They can be done internally sometimes, but often they're done externally. So if you want to look at where the greatest gains are, it's really in helping reduce OpEx and helping manage like the bucket brigade of data that moves through an organization from capital formation through secondary trading and post-trade. And then the compliance and the reporting and all of that. So it's the mid and back office is a very, very meaty kind of target for evolutionary, not revolutionary, but evolutionary improvement. And so as a company that focuses on data management, and everything I've done in my career has been around data management, we started at that spot because we thought that was a great launching point. And I think that the other panelists here have lots to say. I know our friends at Inveniam are really, really focused on that core data asset. And it sounds like Lou and Siddartha are also thinking about how important the mid office is, that connection, and the back office where basically where the sausage is made. And where the sausage is made is where there's a lot of opportunity.
Right. I think that you make such a great point just around manpower and woman power for that perspective, but just the amount of people that are required to service the back office. The front of house is, the Robinhood application that moves smoothly and swiftly and you just click buy and things happen. But to your point, somebody at the back end of that actually needs to receive that message and make that trade happen, or any financial infrastructural perspective. So you have to have so many people involved, and maybe a lot of the people could really be automated out in a lot of cases without the need of some of those middlemen by leveraging the technology. So I think that's really great points there, Dave. I want to go over to Siddartha just because you were talking about structured products, and you certainly mentioned the Big Short example. A lot of people are familiar with that whole cycle. We may be seeing something similar now with maybe just respect to a lot of the technologies continuing to be outdated, and that can kind of compound on each other, especially in high frequency environment situations that we see in today's market. Do you agree with some of the thoughts that Dave has, and where do you see the opportunity to squeeze a couple basis points to make these transactions cheaper and more efficient?
Sure, yeah. So completely agree with what Dave said, though our remit is far narrower, I guess, because we deal only with structured products. And in structured products, as Dave used the word, how front office is sexy. Structured product amongst the sexiest front offices is possibly the sexiest front office because there's just so much glamour. But people don't realize behind that glamorous structured product, there is a servicer who's collecting monies on loans, shipping an Excel sheet to a trustee acting as paying agent, who's converting data from that Excel sheet after applying those models and shipping out a PDF to an investor. So this great front office is backed by two great digital technologies. One is an Excel, the other is PDF. That is how bad that is. And this happens 55 days post facto. So monies that were collected, let's say in the month of September, in the first week of October, the servicer will start collating, cleaning up the data. Somewhere around 15th of October, the data will be sent to the trustee. And then the trustee will apply that models. And because we handle so many live transactions, around 25th of the month, which is the most typical payment date, the investor will get their monies and the report, which means on 25th of October, the investor will get to know something that happened on their portfolio on 1st of September. So that is kind of how the back office currently functions. And because everybody is on their own systems, and Dave talked about reconciliations, if you just looked at top 10 US financial institutions, they would be having at least 200,000 back office people just in India. So if you just added JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, etc., they would be having 200,000 people just in India. That's how huge back and middle offices are.
E plus 55.
E plus 55.
55 on reporting.
That's crazy to think about. I think a lot of people don't realize that, at one point, the New York Stock Exchange and the stock market in the US was closed on Wednesdays, right? Just to rectify all the transactions going on. They closed for an entire day each midweek just to get everything aligned and consolidated. And yet we're not actually that far from that even today with what you're mentioning here. We're nearly 2 months ahead of all the transactions trying to catch up. Of course, you're going to have issues on locating these assets, and there's always going to be the occasional issue. So I want to kick it over to Lou. How are you seeing the technology developing from your side? And what are the trends that are actually being put in practice? Because there's maybe so much opportunity. Where are you kind of identifying are some of the lowest hanging fruit from a technological perspective?
Well, we're seeing with the tokenization trend right now. I think we're looking at the back office, the efficiencies of the back office that can be implemented with the atomic swap. All right. That's a big thing, right? All of a sudden we go from settlement T+5, T+3, T+1 to T+5 seconds now. All right. And that's really big. The atomic swap takes out a huge chunk of the traditional back office. And the blockchain just provides, the distributed ledger provides so much more efficiencies. You don't need a transfer agent-ish, right? You don't need a settlement. You don't need clearing. That swap just happens, right? So
can you explain that? I'd like to challenge that, because that's not exactly. I like the idea, but I'm interested in seeing like atomic swaps, which are super interesting. But who's doing that? And
define that term just for anybody that's unfamiliar with what an atomic swap is before we get into Dave's question, which, by the way, great question. Anybody on the panel, feel free to jump in.
Yeah. So if you have US dollar coin in your wallet and I want to trade that for another token, I can take that US dollar coin and I can put it either into a smart contract or a distributed exchange that some blockchains run. And I can, if that order for that swap gets matched with the other side, that settlement happens. I've swapped my US dollar coin for the other asset in 5 seconds.
Now I understand that, but I'm trying to map that to an institutional mid and back office use case. So what institution, first of all, wallets, okay, which is a complicated thing, just so everyone knows. A wallet is a thing that gets broken into by guys in hoodies, okay, because you use LastPass or you use FriendTech and someone ran social engineering on you. So where is this wallet? Like, tell me where this wallet plays into mid and back office, because I understand Fireblocks or MPC wallets or things like that, but that's not an individual. This is it sounds like you're talking about a retail use case. Where does this fall into mid and back office in institutions?
Well, think about a custodial solution, right? Or transfer agent.
So I'm a transfer agent, okay,
right.
And I have keyless custodial wallets, and I can swap. So I'm trying to figure out which kind of wallet you're talking about, and who is the end user here. Is it someone who's on a desk in a huge on a floor with 300 other people, or is this a interaction with a third party who is transacting with an institution? I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand the use case here.
I think you hit on it. I think it could be a wallet. It could be a guy sitting on a trade desk. I think the biggest efficiencies are going to be the guy on the trade desk, right? Now he doesn't have, his back office goes from 10 people to 2, right? Because of our technology.
So someone at an institution is going to let someone on the floor control a wallet which belongs to the institution. That doesn't seem like it would fit either compliance or risk. So
somebody controls an account, right?
Siddartha, you're in this space with these structured products. So this is probably closer to what you deal with. I'm not trying to call you out, Lou, although it probably sounds like that. I'm just curious.
No, it's a great discussion.
By the way, these panels are really boring if we all agree. So you just expect more of this from me. Sorry. And you can do the same thing to me.
Jump in. From my perspective, I think Lou makes a really strong point, which is a lot of the operations that are done from these intermediaries probably can be improved. To Dave's point, we likely will still need accountability, and that's where the licenses may not necessarily go away. You may have underlying intermediaries that still manage a lot of these processes, but perhaps if this process can be extremely streamlined and improved from soup to nuts, then you're going to see a drastic reduction in a lot of the time and expense that any of these intermediaries need in order to kind of approve these things, because of technology like an atomic swap, where you can just bang, swap those assets immediately. We might still need some oversight to make sure that that swap is happening appropriately and the right individuals are involved. But the actual process of moving those assets now has been drastically improved. Is that kind of the perspective that you were referencing, Lou, or am I off base?
No, you're right on. I mean, these things happen with permissioned assets, private chains, public chains. There still needs to be some oversight, right? We have to do KYC and AML on the addresses, that kind of thing. So,
cool. I want to kick it over to Marson. We haven't heard a ton from him over the last couple of minutes. He's been patiently waiting for his bit. So I certainly know that when we were here at the Inveniam conference in Coral Gables earlier this year, which was an amazing conference with a ton of great panelists and institutions and players in the tokenization space, Inveniam really put a big focus on data management, especially with respect to valuations and getting a better understanding of what's going on with an underlying asset's value, so you can much more appropriately handle transactions, collateral, all of those different pieces. What are your thoughts around how that relates to all of the back office kind of processes that are required to actually reach those valuations?
Thanks, Kyle. I think I'd start off with using Sid's playbook, mentioning a movie. One of my favorite movies is actually called Margin Call. And there's a scene that I keep referencing time and again, where the head trader calls a counterpart in the market, and he plays dumb. He pretends he doesn't know what's going on. And basically, they settle on a number, right? Today, my loss is your gain, meaning you're going to make money off me. I'm happy, right? But truth is, it's a rather opaque market. So in those cases, we're talking about non-QM mortgages. You don't really understand what the underlying asset is. You don't have all the data points to make an accurate decision of what they're worth, right? Now, the reason I like mentioning that movie is because you don't really understand what the MTM is of that asset. Now, if we move over to just hard bricks and mortar, like real estate, where you've got valuations on buildings, we can go down the same path for private equity, private credit, whatever it is. Understanding all the underlying data points takes time. And the truth is, in addition, it also takes a lot of reading and digging into stuff that you're not going to have time in order to actually trade. So the whole point is, all of a sudden, you've got your valuation agents, your auditors, your legal department, your GPs team, your LPs that are involved to some extent in whatever fund you're the admin for instance, everyone connecting data. So you've got the true definition of decentralized data repositories being unified through technology. Keep in mind, the data never moves, right? So, I mean, that's the main thing with our tech. The data doesn't move, but the whole point is everyone is operating, provided they're permissioned in, with transparency. So you are solving a TradFi problem with DeFi technology. And that's where I think where we have middle and back office really shining, because without them, I mean, there is no MTM. There is no monitoring of legal and financial covenants. So you don't know, like on Sid's example, you don't know if they're actually compliant with their debt service coverage ratio, or if they've actually made a payment until it's actually too late. You've got lawyers that actually...
Marson, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Are you saying that you see this as being useful in perfections, in like monthly perfections?
I see this being used all across the spectrum of data, whether it's financial, legal, asset level data. Doesn't matter where it comes from and how you connect it. You're able to act on it and make all your different systems speak to each other. Yeah,
just for the viewers who are not familiar with what a perfection is.
I was going to ask that, so I'm happy you're jumping to it.
Yeah, sorry. A perfection is a bank or a lender covenant. And so typically what happens if you have like some senior debt or some other instrument like that out to a lender, what they do is they send over a questionnaire or some survey type thing every month for you to report on some key metrics. Those key metrics are, that's referred to, that's a perfection. Okay. And what they want to do is they want to make sure that you're tracking to whatever the loan covenants are. If you go below certain thresholds, it's there, you get dinged, or your loan can get, your line or loan can get pulled. And so I think assisting in perfections is great use of your technology, but that's up to Patrick, not me. So,
keep in mind that if you've got all the financial data that's reported and put together on a monthly basis, for that matter, right, when it comes to tracking loans and your covenants, not only do you report it, but you actually got the audit trail to everything reported. So let's try to think out an example. I'm going to supply all my financial statements, all my financial information, and our AI tool is just going to extract that data and feed it directly into your models and your systems. So at the end of the day, I don't actually need to fill out anything. All I got to do is supply you with data. And that's where
you haven't worked with my bankers. Then they send you a PDF and then you have to write it in by hand and sign it with blue ink and fax it back to them. But yeah,
that was actually what I was going to ask. If you don't mind me jumping in here, I want to ask a follow up to Marson. And I do a lot of reading around corporate inertia, where you have kind of a resistance to change from a potentially large organization until the benefits are really extremely clear, right? Because what a lot of, especially in the US capital markets, they work pretty well as they exist today, right? Certainly relative to almost anywhere else, they're pretty effective. So they potentially stand to lose a lot by changing that process as opposed to gaining maybe a slight margin. So how do you quantify the benefits of this kind of data management tool that you provide? What is that real quantifiable benefit for them? Do you see it more as the reduction of closing costs and from an M&A perspective? Is it an investor management style of tool for diligence? Where is it the corporate financing, getting better rates or quicker? Where do you see is the actual quantifiable benefit to leveraging a solution like yours?
That's a great question, Kyle. The thing is, everything is custom made, right? So your pain points are different than Lou's and Sid's and Dave's.
So then what are the common pain points?
So common pain points are actually being able to rely on your data. So as most organizations, most of our clients they're global. And as they are global, they've got different systems in different countries. Let's forget the different languages. Let's just stick to English, right? You're going to have different people operating high level investment, or in certain cases, in certain markets, they have a custom solution. And sometimes this custom solution is Excel. As weird as it sounds, Sid's on the money when he said PDFs and Excel and everything that we've seen in alternative investments, right? Meaning private funds, private markets as a whole. You need to make all of that connect. You need to make sure that data is relevant and that you can trust it. The issue is you've got problems with version control, with permissioning, and now with data privacy laws, meaning most of the time you can't even move that data out of the country. So you need to be able to, first off, have a federated data room that connects all of that data. Then you need to be able to push out that data once it's properly structured into your different systems. So an example I like to give to my clients, and then we start quantifying, is basically introducing them to the knowledge pyramid. You've got the base of the pyramid, which is data. Once you structure data, it becomes information. Once you push information to the right systems, you got knowledge. Once you got your people in front of that, then you've got wisdom. So with that, you're able to not only be more efficient, be cheaper, be quicker, and scale up your business. So transacting becomes a lot more profitable, a lot more reliable. So I'd rather do business with Lou because I know that we're gonna do this in a week or so. We're gonna be good, no question about it. Everything is gonna be reliable, and that data is then maintained on a continuous basis. So right. That's where we usually see our clients tackling the issue on moving forward, on understanding their data and being able to do more with their data.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Lou, a lot of people might suggest that a lot of this is digitizing capital markets, just taking it from paper to Excel or to a digital style of form. And then there's the tokenizing of leveraging blockchain for some of these things. What do you see as the role that blockchain plays in this system?
Well, we've got the efficiencies. We've got smart contracts that can basically, you're creating the rules for the contract, for the digital tokenized asset. And they happen and you can't change those. I think that's going to be growing in the future. And that in itself provides a big cost benefit for blockchain use, right?
Right. Makes a lot of sense to me. And we've got about 10 minutes left. So I have a question for Dave and then Sid, and then maybe we'll conclude with some final thoughts. Dave, I wanted to hear your perspective. I know Vertalo does a lot of white labeling style of services for clients. You build custom infrastructure. So could you talk about some of the differences between having first-party software that a client maybe has in-house versus working with third-party solutions, and how the different pieces come into the decision-making process?
Well, yeah. First, you said earlier in the call, let's get into definitions. Okay.
Yeah.
And so let's first tackle white labeling. Okay. White labeling is cosmetic. Okay. Branded is cosmetic. So if you ever see someone saying that they're offering either a white labeled solution or a branded experience, that's probably likely going to be something that's running on their architecture. Okay. And that is a non-starter for a lot of institutions when it comes to their data. Anybody can white label something. You can white label your, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, you can put little pictures around things. That's not, that doesn't solve security or risk problems. The second thing that you said with respect to us, and I would understand why this is a distinction, is the concept of custom. We actually don't do any custom work here. What we do have is we have an architecture that runs either third party. You can run it on our hosted. You can create a dedicated AWS and run our transfer agent and tokenization platform in a dedicated AWS. But unlike anybody else that we're aware of in the whole world, we can take our digital transfer agency and our tokenization platform entirely and place it inside an institution's first-party architecture onto their AWS. Now, in customization, sometimes people think customization is we're going to create a new system for you. Well, that's really hard to manage. And so instead, we built an API-first platform that enables you to build your own UI, UX, workflow, et cetera, into, on top of our core asset, which is transfer agency and tokenization. So you can do it in any language, you can build it into your flow, and you can white label that, but it's not really white labeling and it's not customization. It's really just the use of APIs, because the problem is we've got a lot of different players here. And the more custom you make, the more you fork your business. So the idea is to actually not fork your business, not have a different offering for everybody, but have an offering that they can use in whatever modality they want. And I think that, as we get through this phase of POCs and pilots, and we see institutions adopt this, they're going to be looking for a combination of interoperability. That means connection to third parties, but they're also going to be looking for control. And in control of data, and specifically proprietary data like investor data and asset data, is not something that they're going to be willing to put out into the market. And so for the last 5 years, we've been developing our platform such that it could be implemented without customization, fully on someone's own architecture. And I hope that everyone understands that there's a lot of opportunity for everyone who's on this call and who's listening, but they're going to have to connect to other players. We do that through APIs. We do it through partnerships. This business that we're in, the sector only works without walled gardens and with data exchange, mostly driven by APIs right now, not by blockchain, because blockchain's just a slow database, and it's on a network. But it's an exciting time. And so, come check us out. We'll talk about it.
Dave, you definitely got me excited talking about, with definitive speak, talking about once these proof of concepts are fully adopted, because I think that we've been on many conversations and panels before over the years where the POCs hadn't even started yet. So it's exciting to see that at least a lot of these institutions are actually getting very active in the space, even if, as someone said on a previous panel, it's still kind of a science fair style of project for a lot of these guys.
Very, very engaged.
But they are very, very active. So over to Sid, before we give our closing thoughts here, where is your tech solution trying to position, and what are you seeing as the primary drivers of interest for some of the clientele and investors that you're working with from a quantified perspective? What do they see as the real benefit?
Yeah, so we have been in production on post-deal admin since 2020 now. So 3 years, there are deals running on our platform for 3 years. These are long tenure deals. And there are paying agents who have offered us up to 50% of their fees, which means that at least 70-80% of their costs are going away because nobody will offer 50% of their fees. On the custodian's role as a verification agent, there is a custodian, I think in Q2, I don't have Q3 data. They verified and certified about 75,000 SME loans on our blockchain using our AI solution, then certified and recorded as an NFT on the blockchain with less than one FT, one person dedicated to this. So just on the automation side, you recover costs in less than 3 months. Our estimate on $150 million structured finance transaction is that costs drop to about 50 bips from current about 150 bips. But more than the drop in cost for $100 million transaction, which is the minimum viable transaction size in the US currently, we would hope that we can make a $20-25 million transaction viable. And we are working on 3 transactions between $20 and $50 million.
Fascinating. Makes a ton of sense. We're talking about real volumes these days with real institutions getting involved. So with the final 5 minutes, I want to go one more time around the panel and just give an opportunity to share some closing thoughts. So kicking it off with you, Lou, talk a little bit about just give us your closing thoughts. Who are you trying to work with? Who would you love to connect with? And what are some of your final thoughts on revolutionizing, transforming your back office?
Yeah, we're, coming from the TradeFi world, we're targeting, investment banks, broker dealers, financial institutions. We do have clients that are banks, credit unions. They aren't really doing a lot of tokenization per se. And we're really seeing some traction with some POCs. As Dave mentioned, we're in the phase right now where we're throwing stuff out there. People are kind of figuring out what they want. They've seen some use cases out there now with Wisdom Tree, Franklin Templeton, putting Act 40 funds out there. We're really trying to get more traction in that area. And we think we've got a nice regulatory compliant platform for, compliant. When I say that, I say we have the data to give to regulators. I know how much they like it, and I know how much it changes every time they come in your office. So that's where we're kind of targeting. And hopefully the whole ecosphere gets bigger and bigger.
Great. And Marson, leave us with your final thoughts here before we close out the panel.
We've broken the $70 billion mark on a platform in terms of assets on the platform. We're growing both stateside and internationally. Really happy to be working with institutional investors, fund managers, fund admins, sovereign funds, and this all across the globe, in different geographies with different needs. And I think the reason we've been this successful and we continue to grow is or the client has no lift to start adopting Inveniam. Inveniam is a layer that'll connect and sit on top of them seamlessly without compromising any security or any data concerns. So the people that I'd personally love to talk to is anyone in capital markets that deals with a lot of data. Obviously, we have been doing a lot in private markets within capital markets, but everyone that touches data within capital markets stands to benefit from Inveniam.
Amazing. Sid, give us your closing thoughts here.
Yeah, so our end goal also is that we connect the front office to our platform and the transaction actually gets tokenized, structured, tokenized on our platform. But more than that, our target is that we can move from $100 million transaction getting reported 7 weeks later to a $20 million transaction going through the same rigor that a public transaction goes through and getting reported in a day or two. And then if the same can be invested into in a digital asset, digital security format, which is what you call tokenization, then that's the cherry on the cake.
Perfect. And finally, Dave, we've got 45 seconds. You want to take it away?
If you don't want to give the most valuable asset you have, which is your investor and asset data, to a third party, and you want to update your back office and mid office systems and explore tokenization of assets and implementation of institutional distributed ledger, call me at vertalo.com. I'm easy to find. I will help you do this safely, securely, and scalably. Thanks a lot.
So that is our panel on transforming your back office. We've got some amazing panelists here. We have another panel coming up just after this. As a reminder, we are now best-selling authors. Blockchain Explained. If you want to check it out on Amazon, Peter Herwig and myself put 19 months of effort into writing that so that you can understand what's going on in the technology. And with that, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks
for having us.
Great. Good talking to you.
Yeah.